Yes, good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for attending our April Planning and Advisory Committee meeting. And without further ado, we'll get right into the business of the evening. And first of all, I will ask, is there any disclosures, pecuniary interests, and the general nature thereof in regards to any of the items this evening from the panel? None noted. Thank you. Could I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Councillor Quinte, Ms. Simmons, any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. I would now ask for a motion to approve the minutes of March the 20th and entertain any questions, errors, or omissions you might have found in them. Councillor O'Neill moves it. Seconder. Mr. Brown. Any questions, comments regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Public meetings are conducted as prescribed by Section 3413 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended for 2 zoning bylaw amendment applications affecting land in the Murray Ward and 1 application for draft proposal for subdivision affecting land in the Murray Ward. The meeting will be conducted in the following manner for each application. First, I will identify the application being considered. Then I will ask planning staff to outline the application being considered. Then ask if there are any members of the public who have registered in advance to attend and participate in the meeting and have any questions or comments regarding each application. If there are no public comments or questions, I will ask the committee if they have any questions or comments. Once the committee's questions have all been addressed, the committee will consider and vote on each application. If you wish to provide comments, please state your name and address for the record prior to addressing the committee. This committee has been delegated the responsibility to conduct public meetings as prescribed under the Planning Act. A full report of the meeting's proceedings will be submitted to City Council on Wednesday, May the 21st, 2025. Council will make a decision on each stated application. Anyone other than the applicant who wishes to receive further notice of Council's decision on each application must submit a written request for notice of Council's decision to the Director of Planning and Development Services. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services, please advise the committee on how notice of these meetings were given. Brian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the committee. Notice of the applications being considered this evening were given in keeping with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, by first-class mail on March 28th, 2025, and posting of signs on the subject properties on the same date.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now proceed with the first public meeting of the evening, and it is 7.1, Staff Report 25-025 PD, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, and the application owner is Marion Arlene McIntyre, and the location is 297 Zion Road. The file number is D09/M04/25. Ashley, would you like to address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This rezoning is a condition of consent application B9/25M, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on February 13th, 2025. Under the consent application, the Committee of Adjustment approved the severance of a 0.63 hectare lot to create a vacant lot for future development. This application proposes to rezone the conditionally approved severed lot from the agricultural zone to the rural residential zone. The conditionally approved retained lot would be rezoned from the agricultural zone to the rural zone. The context of the rezoning is to recognize the change in designation of the property. The property was formerly designated as agricultural in the 2014 official plan. The updated official plan designates the property as rural. In 2022, an agricultural impact assessment was completed to determine whether a proposed severance can comply with the provincial agricultural policies, as well as those of the City of Quinte West. According to the assessment, the subject property is not designated by the province as an area for specialty crops. The building department states no concerns. Comments received from Lower Trend Conservation dated March 25th, 2025 state that a technical submission will be required to demonstrate a building envelope is available on the severed lands to LTC satisfaction prior to clearance of consent conditions. No other comments have been received from the internal staff or external agencies. At this time, there were no comments from the public. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the city's official plan, and maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. This application is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much, Astrid. Do we have anyone in attendance other than the applicant who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or have general questions? This is about Zion Road. I know you folks are here for that, or the one coming up? Okay, I just wanted to differentiate. Yeah. You'll have a few moments to question, that's for sure. Okay. So getting back to the McIntyre one, is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will now ask the committee to consider the recommendation, which is to approve, and motion, and any questions or comments. Mr. Brown moves it. Seconder. Councillor Card, any questions or comments further from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And we do have one council member, Mr. Kosovas, is on virtual this evening too. Okay, motion is carried. Your comments regarding the application and staff reports have been recorded and will be forwarded to the members of council. Together with the minutes of the meeting, council will make a decision to approve or refuse the each stated application at the regularly scheduled council meeting of Wednesday, May the 21st, 2025. We will now move to item 7.2, staff report 25.26PD, the draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment application. The owner is 13142-175 Canada Inc. The location is north of 78 Teal Road. The file number is D12/M04/25 and D09/M05/25. Madison, would you like to also address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The applicant has submitted concurrent applications D12-M04-25 and D09-M05-25 for a draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment for the lands located to the north of 78 Teal Road. The purpose of application D12-M04-25 is to obtain draft plan approval for a subdivision containing 13 lots for single detached dwellings, 1 block for a stormwater management pond, and an internal road. The subdivision would be privately serviced with individual wells and septic systems. It should be noted that this application is for draft plan approval and a number of technical conditions would need to be fulfilled prior to being granted full approval. The purpose of concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application is twofold. Number 1, to update the environmental protection zone boundary on Schedule D of the City of Quinte West zoning bylaw in accordance with the boundary shown on Schedule B attached to the staff report. The updated environmental protection zone would include the wetland, ephemeral drainage feature, and the associated 15-meter setback. Development would not be permitted in the environmental protection zone. And 2, to rezone the portion of the property located outside of the environmental protection zone to the rural residential exception 92 zone to permit residential uses within 500 meters of the former Wooler landfill site, located at 58 Perry Lane. This landfill site is not currently operational. The subject property is located in the hamlet of Wooler, which meets the definition of a settlement area in the provincial planning statement. The PPS indicates that settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development. The city's official plan prescribes that residential development in hamlets will take place primarily in the form of registered plans of subdivision. The applicant is proposing a total of 13 lots ranging in size from 0.42 hectares to 1.78 hectares. The proposed development layout is compatible with the adjacent residential uses, and the proposed density is well within the allowance for low-density development. Wetland boundaries were delineated as part of the environmental impact study submitted in support of this application. It was determined that the current environmental protection zone is not a wooded swamp, but rather consists of upland, sugar, maple, deciduous trees. As such, city staff in consultation with Lower Trent Conservation are comfortable removing the environmental protection zone classification from this portion of the property and applying it to the portion of the property that includes the wetland, the drainage feature, and the associated 15-meter setback. The second portion of the zoning amendment would be to rezone the property to the rural residential exception 92 zone to allow for residential uses within 500 meters of the landfill site. The applicant submitted an evaluation for potential for groundwater impact to assess the impact of the landfill site on the subject property. It was determined that the former landfill site does not pose a significant threat to the proposed development. An overview of this report will be given shortly. The owner has submitted several documents in support of the proposed development, including a functional servicing and preliminary stormwater management report, an environmental impact study, hydrogeological and site servicing study, traffic impact brief, and evaluation for potential for groundwater impact. I will provide a brief overview of the supplemental materials provided. However, it is recommended to refer to the studies directly to get a more comprehensive understanding of the content and associated recommendations. So to start, the Functional Servicing and Preliminary Stormwater Management Report prepared by Lubin Engineering provides an overview of internal servicing and stormwater management strategies for the proposed development. Next, the Preliminary Stormwater Management prepared by Zell Consulting provides an overview of the stormwater management requirements. The report states that the roadside ditches will be used for the quantity controlled by driveway culverts acting as orifices. The release rates under the post-development are less than the pre-development flows. Next, the hydrogeological and site servicing study prepared by Oak Ridge Environmental Ltd. was informed by relevant background data, site inspections, well record data from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, a survey of neighboring wells, and well tests. This report produced a number of recommendations pertaining to the property. Notably, the report states that water supplies should be obtained through the construction of drilled wells, as dug wells are not appropriate and would not be acceptable for the proposed lots. The environmental impact study, also prepared by Oak Ridge Environmental Ltd., provides an overview of the environmental features on the property and offers a series of recommended mitigation measures. The EIS established a set of recommendations pertaining to development mitigation, construction mitigation, and post-construction environmental mitigation. These recommendations include setbacks from the wetland features, required vegetation to be planted, and skewing the building envelopes to provide buffers between development and vegetation communities. Compliance with these recommendations will be included as a condition of draft plan approval. The traffic impact brief, prepared by Urban Trans Engineering Solutions, Inc., evaluates the potential impacts of traffic changes prompted by the proposed development on municipal roadways. The brief indicated that the proposed development would generate a total of 9 two-way trips during the weekday morning peak hour and 12 two-way trips during the afternoon peak hour. The report concluded that the proposed residential development would have minimal traffic impacts on the road network. Finally, the applicant submitted an evaluation for potential for groundwater impact, also prepared by Oak Ridge Environmental Ltd., to assess the impact of the Wooler landfill site on the subject property. The report found that there is no significant risk of leachate contaminated groundwater impacting the subject property, and that the landfill gas migration from the former landfill site does not pose a significant threat to the proposed development. The city has received verbal comments from two neighboring property owners. Their concerns include traffic safety, the number of wells and septics going to the area, the location of the proposed access point coming from Jarvis Road as opposed to Teal Road, the impact on wildlife, and the location of the stormwater management pond. It should be noted that the applicant's engineer and planning consultant are in attendance today to address any concerns the public or committee may have. Overall, this application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, the City of Quinte West official plan, and represents good planning. This application is therefore recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much, Madison. I'm going to ask this at this time, would the applicant or the representative like to come forward and maybe make a few remarks, and then we'll open it up for the general public for questions and comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Nantaruban Rajadurai, the applicant and authorized agent, and we have a planner, Deepak, and he will
Maybe you could step up the microphone a little closer, please.
speak up in the mic. Okay, my name is Nantaruban Rajadurai. I'm the applicant and the authorized agent, and his name is Deepak. He's the planner on this project.
If you'd like to make any remarks or a presentation, please do so. And I noted we have a lady here, Christy. Is she part of your group too that's on virtual here or on by phone? I don't know whether staff I don't recognize the name, but I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name there.
Yeah, he is the owner of the property and is attending online.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make sure we were recognizing anybody else that was maybe interested in, or maybe address the committee. So, okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, respected Planning Advisory Committee Chair and all the members, good evening. My name is Deepak Bhatt. I'm a registered professional planner in the province of Ontario with about 25 years experience. I work with the city of Quinte Lake. At the time it was County of Victoria and Durham region in city of Pickering as a land use planner for the last 25 years in the province. And I believe in the sustainable development and environment first principle, and that's what our group belief is. I am representing the owner of the subject property, now under consideration by the PSC today. I have read and reviewed the staff input and the staff report, and I'm in favor of the staff report. And just to summarize briefly on the application, the first part of the draft plan of subdivision is with 13 lots for single detached dwelling units and one block of stormwater pond, and then there are some area under the conservation area for the lower trend conservation, and also a buffer zone of 15 meters. And also an internal road taking the access from the north side of Jarvis Road. And second part for the application is to amend the zoning bylaw schedule, the map for the subject property, for the rural residential and the environmental protection to the rural residential exception 92 zone and the environmental protection zone for the certain part on the northwest of the property. So our original application was submitted in August 22. For last 3 years, we have worked in consultation with the city staff and the other agency like the lower trend conservation on reviewing and making the site analysis, going back feedback from all the agency to improve our plan to make it acceptable to the staff, city staff, and for the other agencies. And we have prepared other reports for the site survey like environmental impact study, geohydrological study and site servicing study, traffic impact study, evaluation of potential for groundwater impact, stormwater and functional services study, and species at risk for the study area, etc. So as per my land use planning review, and I satisfy, and the development plan is in compliance to the provincial planning statement 2024 and official plan of the city of Quinte West and also the zoning bylaws. To summarize that, I will say that there is a sufficient study and the analysis report is available that there won't be any negative impact on the surrounding, and it's like I would say that overall the proposal is the best use of this underutilized land, appropriate and in harmony with the surrounding. So I request the respected PSC chair and the committee members to accept the staff report and recommend it to the approval of the City Council. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm sure you'll be available for any questions that the audience may have or the committee later on. So
Thank you very much.
thank you for your presentation. Okay, now we'll entertain anyone who has objections or general questions, I guess, regarding this application. I would ask you to come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please, and we'd be pleased to hear your concerns and questions.
You can stand behind me.
Yeah, I'll stand behind you in case.
Oh, don't mind my assistant. I can fall at any time. I have a seizure condition. Hi there. My name's Nadine Walter. I live at 203 Jarvis Road, there on Wooler. You can see the little blue mark there. I would be edging the road and the pool of water. I would be severely impacted by this new schedule and this new subdivision severely. So would my children, so would most of the neighborhood. But what I'm mostly worried about is the rest of my neighborhood, because in the year that I have lived here and moved here is I have seen all of my neighbors' yards flood, and I have seen great environmental impact without trees being cut down. And I have 15 years of landscaping experience under my belt. And I know when you cut down sugar maples, birch, and all of your deciduous and native trees, and you cause harm to surrounding areas, it causes flooding. I've seen our culverts flood. I have seen a lot of damage. I have seen my neighbor Rebecca over here with the recent ice storm. She lost a lot of her personal belongings because of the recent hydro outage and everything. I have seen a lot of damage caused due to everything. I have seen many things happen, and I see 13 wells, 13 septic systems, 12 proposed systems, and a road. And Jarvis Road itself can barely fit 2 cars coming down, and my children get on the bus, and the bus itself can barely fit a car and a bus traveling down. So what are these houses going to do if these children move in and they themselves have to go to Stockdale School or the French Immersion School? They're going to have to get on the bus as well, and the increased traffic. So I worry for these kids. I worry for my kids. I worry for our infrastructure. I worry for everything that happens. I worry for my neighbors. I worry for our basements. I worry for our belongings. And I do not like what I've seen in the past year alone. And to see that we want to destroy almost a hectare of forest that helps absorb water, it doesn't look good. That's all I came here to say. Personally, I know from a landscaping standpoint, it doesn't sound that great. As a motherly point, it doesn't sound that great. But that's all I have to say from me. I am the closest person, along with one other person on that map, whom I don't think is here today, but I think that's...
I'll maybe ask maybe the representative, maybe you want to address the lady's concern with the deforestation. I'll go with that first. Do you have a plan in place or a projected idea of what's going to happen to those maple trees or whatever, or even if you're going to touch them? I don't know what your plan looks like. Maybe you could address that if you could, please.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, our expert on geohydrological study and environmental protection study, they have mentioned that The hydrological study provides an assessment of the well interference, and it's concluded while we have, in coordination with the lower Trent Conservation Area, we have studied the surrounding area for conservation protection, environment protection area, and we have kept sufficient area for the reservation of environment protection zone, not only the protection area, but we have provided the buffer zone, 50-meter buffer zone from the edge of the environmental protection zone. So the area is very much clear about protecting the surrounding neighborhood also. And in addition, I would like to add about the road. The road right-of-way is 20 meter. 20-meter road, I think, is very standard everywhere, even in the urban area or even a rural area. 20-meter right-of-way is a sufficient right-of-way to provide the two-way carriageway asphalt road of 7 meter, plus the side shoulders. So 20 meter is the very standard from traffic interest.
You need to come out and drive our road and put yourself, the vehicle, beside a bus or the garbage truck,
Yeah.
and I guarantee you will be in the ditch.
Okay.
And pedestrians would be walking in the culverts.
Okay. Okay, that's okay, no. We'll try and keep it,
I know.
yeah.
I'm trying to keep
yeah. We're gonna listen to everyone here, that's what we're here for. So, you're pretty much finished with your address, sir, as far as concerns that you heard previous? Okay.
I just add one more sentence.
Yes.
That our traffic and transportation expert, they have prepared the report, and that report is also available to justify the access road and the traffic pattern and the volume on this road.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will say, we have some gentlemen over here from our engineering department that could maybe address the roads too, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Colletti, and they are from our engineering and roads department.
couldn't see him, that's why.
Yeah, yeah. No, they're listening, and if, I don't know whether you want to address any of those concerns, or Robert, or one of the.
Sure.
Del-
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the members. Public Works has reviewed Jarvis, Teal, and I understand that there were some concerns brought up. The first one with the width of Jarvis and Teal. So Public Works has measured the width to be 5.6 meters wide, which provides two 2.8 meter lanes, which meets the minimum standard for a residential road within the city. Teal itself is 5.9, so slightly wider. The sight lines of the proposed entrance off of Teal Road were analyzed by our staff, and the minimum sight line for stopping is 85 meters, and there's in excess of 100 meters in either side. So the proposed road location exceeds the minimum stopping sight distance as required. With respect to traffic, we've reviewed the previous traffic studies, and traffic on Jarvis ranges from 150 vehicles a day up to 450, depending on the day. And as the applicant noted, this site during peak hours would add 12 trips per hour. So that equates to about 1 in 5 minutes, one additional vehicle in 5 minutes. So we didn't consider traffic to be of concern based on the documents presented.
Okay. Would you like to come to the podium and give your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Anna Bradshaw, and I live at 181 Jarvis. I'm just wondering when the traffic survey was done. Was it done before or after the LCBO outlet opened at the corner of County Road 40 and Jarvis?
And does it take into considerations the kids that walk to the school buses back and forth? And this road has no sidewalks on it. So you try putting two vehicles side by side with kids walking on the road. to go to
Or
school.
pedestrians? We have a lot of people that walk up and down that road.
Year-old neighbor have to go into the culvert to avoid traffic.
Yeah. I walk up to the corner of Wooler Road every morning and every afternoon to get my mail. And I'm always having to step into someone's driveway when cars come by because it's so narrow. And the cars do not follow the speed limit. Even though it was reduced from 60 to 50, they're still going fast down the road. Thank you.
Probably needs some enforcement. Do you have anything more you'd like to address, Robert?
I would just add through you, Chair, the study that was received by the applicant was submitted November 10th, 2023, or that's when it was completed. And then the traffic counts that I referenced were based on the GIS data that Public Works maintains through our various traffic studies.
Okay. Anyone else like to come forward, please? Questions or comments, please?
Okay, my name is Brian McQueen. I'm at 197 Jarvis Road. First of all, I'd like to address the proposed lifting of this environmental that was done there at the hydro station between 203 and the hydro station for the access point to this lot. This lot is designated off of Teal Road, even in the paperwork. It says it's PTL, blah, 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 Murray, and it says Teal Road on it, not Jarvis Road. So the access road should be coming off of Teal Road, not Jarvis, to start with. Second point is this environmental land that's there has been environmental protection on it. Some previous owners of that house at 203 had submitted to the city at one time to extend their deck out approximately 2 feet. At that time, the city said no, he could not. Even though he would still be on his own property at the time, the city came back and told him no, because it was environmental protection land. Now that we have people that have the money, I'm going to say right out plain state, that wants to develop this land, the city is willing, and the Quinte West, supposedly, and conservation people are willing to say, oh, we'll let it fly, we'll waive it. That's a little bit not acceptable in the fact of a taxpayer. Anyways, so that's about the road access. The second part is when they did the water survey on the drilled lots for their testing, I allowed them to put a meter reading water thing to monitor my well at the time. So they did the water monitoring of my well back, and they did the testing of the water was done from April 6th to June 28th, 2022. Okay, that is during the wettest time period that we have. It's not the drought period. We're all on dug wells. Our wells drop a lot during the dry period. So, of course, the water that they gave us, report that I received from them, shows, oh yes, slow decline in water of your well. Well, I hate to tell you, in their letter here it says, although the water level in your well is quite variable, likely due to usage and interference from neighboring dug wells, it says, the testing of our client's site did not result in any drawdown in your well. But it says there that my well dropped. Well, during this time period, I was gone with my fifth wheel down south. I wasn't even at my residence. Therefore, there should not have been even a drawdown on my well at all, other than what they're saying here from local wells to begin with, on my dug well. So now if you put in these 12 houses or whatever they're proposed, they're going on drilled wells. They should not affect my wells because they're drilled. However, now you are changing, as people have said, the landscape of this road. You're putting in foundations. You're going to change the way the water runs through the land. On top of that, now you also have your sewage from your septic tanks, which is going into the ground water. And I am right behind all them, and that'll be coming into my well. Okay, behind my property, they plan on putting in a pond. So this pond now isn't really going to be a pond. It's going to be a sewage collection of all from their septic tanks. So that is totally, oh, it looks nice and pretty on paper because it's a nice little well. Environmentally, going to be nice, but no. The other thing I have is, which you've already addressed pretty well, is about the roads. We have kids on a road that has moved in recently and that, and they do walk the road for the school buses every morning, every afternoon. There has been one incident this winter, actually, where one of the kids had to not jump in, dive into the, because of the plow almost took him out this winter. We have no sidewalks on our street. Our street, even though you think it's wide enough, today with the garbage truck, recycling truck actually, was in the ditch almost with my car. Wasn't a pickup truck, it was a regular car trying to go by the recycling truck. Our road's not that wide, and I don't know where you guys are taking your measurements from, if it's from the center to the gravel or to the hard asphalt type area. But that whole Jarvis Road is not that wide at all. Speed limit. We have had our speed limit finally reduced down from 60 down to 50. But I can tell you, you put a police officer out there on and off, you will literally increase tickets. The people that come down Teal Road alone, because I walk from my residence and up Teal Road to the wetlands up that way, they are coming down that road at 60 plus. Teal Road is now a 50 zone as well. So, and yesterday I was walking a dog and I gave the old hand slow down to a truck. He actually stopped and said, what's the problem? I said, it's 60, it's 50. He goes, no, it's not, it's 60. I said, no, it's 50. So there needs to be more enforcement out in our area with the police. That has nothing to do with this, but I'm letting you guys know about that.
Well, that can happen. We can certainly address it with the detachment commander, that's for sure.
Well, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're going 80, 90.
Yeah.
80, 90, down
Okay.
Jarvis. And the one problem is what you guys don't show on your maps here, is when you come off Jarvis Road to go to Teal, there is such a bad curve there where the stop sign sits. By the time you actually pull out to stop, your vehicle is almost into Teal Road. Anything coming down that Teal Road, you're hit. Whoops. You're hit. It's a very dangerous corner, which is another reason why not to use Jarvis Road as the access point.
Okay. Robert, do you want to address a couple of the road issues, and then I'm going to ask the planning staff, maybe if they want to address the issue you're talking about as far as the septics and the stormwater management and maybe the environmental that you disagree with. So, because I know they've been, our staff has been dealing with lower.
And that's the other thing, sir, is that it's fine that people have said that they've, all these environmental studies have been done.
Yep.
We have not seen any of this stuff. People can sit up here and say, you know, this study's done, this study's done, this study's done. Nothing has been given to us as public.
Oh, you're certainly welcome to, I'm quite sure, to see any of the reports you would like to have. Yeah. Robert, do you have anything you'd like to add as far as the road and the corner safety and what have you, maybe, please? And then we'll move over to the other side here.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Through you. I do understand that Jarvis is a rural residential street with 50-kilometer-an-hour speeds. It is common for children to be walking. It's just the data that we have is that this is typical for a rural environment. The sight lines at Jarvis and Teal were checked. And there's some brushing that could be done. However, generally they're in conformance, especially if you, even before you get to the road, you can see more than the standards. With respect to speed, that's entirely an enforcement issue for the OPP.
Yeah. Sight lines, I welcome you to come and bang on my door anytime and come out with me. Anytime.
Could I ask planning staff maybe to, I don't know how you want to comment on the environmental part and why that was changed, and also maybe on the septic issue. I would say if it were leaching that bad, that's not good, because I know they're all under provincial standards now and building codes that they have to be up to code, and I would hope they wouldn't leak, as the gentleman says. But maybe you want to address the water and well issues and septic, please.
If you, Mr. Chair, perhaps Madison can speak to the environmental piece, and then I can pick up from there. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So in terms of that environmental protection zone that goes behind kind of to the north and the west of the property that currently exists, the reason the city is comfortable removing it is because through the environmental impact study, a wetland delineation was done, so field work was kind of undertaken. So they did the site visit and they verified the location of the wetlands on the property, and it was found that there are no wetlands in that northwestern kind of corner. And you can see in the southwestern corner there a little bit where it shows the kind of the yellow and the green. So that is where the wetland was found to be, plus the 15-meter setback from development. So the reason we feel comfortable removing it, the environmental protection zone, is because there are no environmental protection features in that location. So as I mentioned in my blurb previously, there are trees, but that is not something that we regulate at this time.
Brian, did you want to make a few comments, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps I can just comment on the comments in relation to wells and septic. So obviously there's some information within the staff report, and there's background studies have been submitted in relation to the ability for this property to support individual wells, individual septics. The requirements of those studies have to meet the requirements of provincial legislation in terms of the way that they're reviewed and the way that the exercises are done. And one of the important parts of that is the testing of the ground soil and the ability for the septic on the lots to be contained, and any potential leaching to be contained within the properties and not to spill onto other properties. And that's the type of review and the type of information that we are looking for when we review these studies. For this development, the studies submitted did complete and qualify a complete nitrate impact assessment, which looks at the impact on the soils, impact on neighbouring properties. It meets all of the Ministry of Environment standards for these lots within the size of a parcel. And the other thing I would say as well is that while this is a subdivision, and it's definitely an increase in development, particularly for an area like this that hasn't seen the scale of historical development. The fact that it's on private services and the fact that there are existing residencies that rely on water and their own septic systems, that's what leads to the level of density that you see. That's why you don't see much higher densities on sites like this. The sites simply can't accommodate it. The information provided to us to date, and as was said, I think at the start of Madison's presentation, this stage we're at in the process right now is for draft plan approval. There is a requirement for detailed studies to be further reviewed before you get to final approval. However, based on the information that we've been provided so far, it meets all of the ministry standards, and that's why the draft plan is being supported. And the density relates to the sensitivities around well and septic and potential for impacts on adjacent properties.
Maybe one other thing, Brian, usually there's a hydro-G study. Maybe it could address the well issues and the groundwater aquifer and stuff like that. And I know dug wells are not going to be quite the same as a drill well. Drill wells tend to be deeper, and whether they draw on that water aquifer, but maybe when they get the further studies down the road with that hydro-G, maybe comment on some of their concerns in that regard.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, yes, it does. And I think it was spoken to earlier, that's the rationale and the reasoning for the requirement for drilled wells to reach a different aquifer. So definitely the ability for water supply and water quality is tested. That's why the test wells were done on the property. The other thing I would say, and I'll maybe throw this back over to our public works staff, is that there's an element of the stormwater management design that also speaks to the availability of water contained within the site that supplies wells, and I'll maybe ask Mr. Jackson to respond to that.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So the stormwater management report does take into consideration the roadside ditches that are being proposed on this new road servicing these nine lots. And the roadside ditches being proposed are somewhat unique in that they would be infiltration ditches. And that's a key part of their stormwater management plan is to maximize infiltration from the road ditches and the pond for groundwater recharge. So that's one of the ways that they're achieving their quality or quantity targets, would be to allow the roadside ditches to infiltrate directly instead of running off. And that's one of the key strategies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, come to this podium, please, sir. State your name. Well, I guess you've already stated your name. Okay.
So Brian McQueen again, 197 Drivers. So this water study stuff and everything, like I stated, was done in April, our wettest time period. So all your figures or studies that you guys are working off of are done during our wettest time period, during 2022. And if you ever want to Google up rainfall amount for Trenton, Ontario during 2022, we exceeded our normal rain values that we normally had during that year. We actually had something like 889 millimeters or whatever. Normally we were at 849 or something like that. So that year when they did this report during April, our wettest time period, was the highest rain year we had.
Okay. Would staff like to, I guess, maybe entertain any consideration about the time frame or how that was done, or to be fair, I guess, to analyze a proper outcome, I guess you'd say?
Yeah, I think I'd have to throw that question to the applicant if they're able to provide any additional information on the timing of that. Again, the requirements are when they do these studies, it meets the ministry standards. As to whether that dictates the time of the year, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but maybe the applicant can speak to that.
Would you like to address that, sir, if you could? When you conducted this study, so you have a fair analysis, I'll put it that way.
I'm not expert in this field, but however, we will be abide by the standard rules of the environmental study and the time frame. So definitely, we will.
We'd like to see the letters that you guys sent me.
No, I cannot.
The study.
So that's all I can say now.
Go ahead.
So I don't have much answer on it because it's a highly high-level study by the geohydrologist and in this report. And so basically I can say that we will be looking into that matter about the time frame, whatever the standard regulations, that can be studied and that can be submitted at a later date.
And that would be my other question to Brian. Maybe when the future study is done, there'll be more pertinent information, I'll put it that way. I'll let you comment on that, please.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, that's what we were just discussing. I think there's two other things Ms. West reminded me of, was that when it comes to the timing of the study, the fact that they're looking at groundwater supply from an aquifer through drilled wells probably creates a different scenario in terms of seasonal water at the surface level through like a dug well type situation. But the other thing, just picking up on your point, I think what we can do is we've recorded that question, and we can make sure that that's clarified prior to us getting to a final approval stage.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to come forward, please, and state your name and we'll entertain your questions, please. Name and address, please.
Yeah, name's Dan Geisen. We're on 78 Teal Road. I just want to talk about a low water level, right? When the water gets way down, my pump's, say this tall, gets halfway down on that pump, right? Any more than that, it's going to suck air. And then what do we do?
Well, you're the water, that's a simple
then we're
answer.
the water,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
So, we're not right now.
No.
High water is good, right?
Yep.
Low water is no good.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, that Director Jardine is saying here, that they're gonna have to do a future study, I guess, to give a more accurate, I guess, conclusion to what the average flow or groundwater flow is going to be, I guess.
Right, Mr. Chair, so I think I have to be clear, the study has been provided so far, so for a hydrogeological study for this type of situation, the study has to speak to the ability for the chosen aquifer, so let's say whether it's a surface level well or whether it's a drilled well, the ability for that water source to supply not just the proposed development, but also the existing residential wells in the area. So that work has already been done. The point of clarification, I think that was raised by the other gentleman, was does the timing of that study impact that review? And that's something that we'll follow up on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
are
so
cutting into the-
you're back to where the gentleman said in the summertime, July or August was usually our dry period. The levels can be certainly changing.
I have a report right here that says that my water level
Okay.
dropped in my well and I wasn't even there.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll have to take all that in consideration. We're just listening to your input tonight, and anyone else, do you have anything else, sir, you'd like to
We're always
address?
taking, like our swamp land, we're always taking more and more of that away, and that filters our water too. It keeps the water clean, right? So that's gotta be in consideration too, so.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're recording all your concerns, and we'll take them under advisement, that's for sure. Anyone else like
Thank
to
you.
come forward and have any concerns or questions, please?
Yeah, my name's Doug Bradshaw, 181 Jarvis.
Okay, welcome.
The yellow area indicated on that site map there shows a house and a septic system. Now, is that dark area the house and the light area is the septic system? And if it's the light area that's the septic system, you're now getting into an environmental zone, and it's a wet area. So the septic bed is only going to leach into that water. And that water travels all the way down along my property, onto my property, in behind the houses, and feeds our wells. So you're basically poisoning my well.
Well, I know under the building code, the septic systems are designed so they don't leach if they're working properly. And I know in a lot of cases now you have to put an elevated system in instead of one that's in the ground, and they have to conform to certain regulations. Because I've had to change too in some of my buildings that I have had compared to what we had to other years.
But we're all sand out here.
Yeah, yeah. But I do know under the building code, I don't know whether, Brian, you want to address that, you look after that department, but I do know they have to be conformed, that they are contained within. If they're working properly, they shouldn't be leaching, I'll put it that way, on neighboring properties.
Yeah, that's correct. I think there's two parts to this. So just to answer the first part of the question, the white box with the darker line round it's the footprint for the house, and the white square without the black line around it is, yes, a location for the septic. So a couple of things there. Firstly, the review of the environmental protection area. So the area within the yellow represents the setbacks from that defined wetland area. And remember, that's been updated through a review with the Conservation Authority. So Conservation Authority are going to obviously be concerned, or would be concerned, with any development or septic that was going to have an impact on the wetland, as you suggest. So they're comfortable with those locations. The other thing I would say, picking up from the chair's comments, obviously the filters, the septic system itself is designed to be contained through our building permit process and the review, installation of a septic system. That will be reviewed so that it's a contained system. And obviously, as you know, the system by which a septic system works, it's filtering rather than leaching out. It's not dispersing.
But we know which way it flows.
That review will be done.
And that blue line there, that wiggles in across the boundary line.
Yep.
That's the stream.
There's an intermittent stream, and that's why it's identified, and there will be protection zones on either side, correct?
But if you build a pond in that yellow area.
No.
Oh, is that where that's going?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, the pond is to the north, yeah.
For my kids to play in poo-poo pond.
Yeah, that.
Oh,
It's
man.
supposed to be the pond, which is behind my place, and like you're saying, all that septic into,
4 septic beds to feed into it.
well, further into the river, which goes into the pond.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else like to come forward, please? Yes, sir. State your name and address, please.
Joe Baranski. I live at 126 Jarvis, up the road a ways. I just want to know this whole water, the well study, where can we get a copy of that? I want to know if there's going to be another one done that's current. We have a dug well. I want to know if these 13 drilled wells are going to affect us up the road a ways with dug wells. And I want to know if there's some kind of assurance from the property owners that, is there some kind of recourse if I go to flush my toilet or take a bath, I don't have any water. So I'd like some assurances. I'd like a new study. I'd like a new report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Staff, would you like to address that, please?
I think first comment, so studies available. As mentioned right at the start of the meeting, as with any planning application, notices go out. Most of you probably got it or you saw the sign. 3 weeks before the meeting, all of the information's been available at City Hall for asking questions, etc. has been during that period and it will continue to be. So all studies are available. Based on the review that we've done, outside of the question around the timing of the test well studies, there is no rationale that I can see at the moment for requesting an updated study, unless the committee directs such.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Well, you didn't answer all my questions, though. Are there assurances that these 13 new wells aren't going to affect us up the road, all these people here that live in that area and myself further up the road?
I think all I can say to that is that you, at the point of the exercise in the study, what the obligation on the applicant is to do the right work to be so that the city is assured that the property and the site, the aquifers, etc., can support the development and the additional wells. However, as people who are all on private wells fully understand, you could never get any guarantees under any situation based on weather patterns or etc. Nobody's going to be able to give you any assurance ever that your well is always going to be the same as it is today. That's not an assurance that we could give you outside of even a development like this. Even in general terms, you wouldn't be able to get that assurance.
So the well study is just a study for that area, and if there's enough water to support the subdivision, it doesn't really take into account how it affects anybody else that lives there.
No, it does. It takes into account all of the surrounding properties. No, obviously not a kilometre away or anything like that, but it has to.
Not a kilometre
no,
away.
it has to take into consideration.
These people here are right
yep,
next door.
Exactly. It takes.
They're going to have it worse than me.
Yep.
I'm right behind
If you please listen to what I said, the study takes into consideration all of the adjoining properties.
Okay. But that, again, that was 3 years ago,
They
right?
did it 3 years ago during
Yeah.
rainy season.
3 years ago, so I think we should get something up to date.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, please? Anyone else? Okay. Brian, I'm going to ask, do you have any further comments before I ask the committee to consider it? I know we have 2 recommendations here, and they are subject to approval as presented. Do you have any further comments before I open it up to committee for their questions, comments?
Not really. Maybe just in summary, just to make sure people are aware in terms of process, because it's very rarely that you have to get involved in something like this. But this is one stage in the process. It's a recommendation for a draft plan. As you'll see, if you've got the staff report and the documentation, there's a significant number of technical conditions, some of which have been are detailed and dealing with some of the issues that have been asked this evening. This is not final approval of a development, it's draft plan. All of the conditions have to be satisfied before they get to final approval. So this is a relatively early stage in the process.
Okay, thank you very much. You have one final comment, sir?
Yes, sir. Before you guys make a decision, could I see how many people have been to Wooler? How many people have been, to this site? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd invite you out tomorrow and take you for a walk. But bring your rubber boots.
Well, like our director said, it's draft right now. It's not getting final approval tonight at all. This is a start to start the process, and there's got a lot of conditions will have to be answered down the road, and it'll have to come before this committee again. Brian, maybe you want to discuss what the next parameters will be, and maybe timeframes or whatever.
Through Mr. Chair, so timeframes, that's hard to say. That goes back, that's in the hands of the applicant to satisfy the conditions. As I said, there's like, I think, 40-something conditions. Some of them are relatively straightforward. Some of them take significant other work. All of the engineering work would still have to be done. Technically, it doesn't come back to this committee. So the committee and council a number of years ago delegated final approval authority to staff. So that's the situation now. Committee are well within their rights to ask for an application to come back for final approval. But it definitely does come back to council in the form of a bylaw for approval before any agreement is registered. Very hard to say, as I say, in terms of timelines. It could be 6 months to longer for the developer to walk through these conditions and satisfy all the conditions.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, I'm going to ask the committee now for their input and questions. So, Councillor Quinte.
Thanks very much, Chair Ellier. Just in follow up, I guess, on Mr. Jardin's comments about timelines. Is there an expiry date to this application process, and what is that expiry date?
Through Mr. Chair, if the draft plan is approved by committee and then by council, there's a 3-year limit on the draft plan. It expires after 3 years.
And then
if the proponent cannot meet all of the conditions, cannot satisfy all of the conditions, then the draft plan approval is removed. Yep.
And just to clarify, you mentioned that there's 40-some conditions. There's actually 44 conditions in the list with 7 notes on top of the conditions that the developer is going to have to meet before they can take one step farther. So they could be, as you suggested, 6 months, or they could take the full 3 years to even get to a final approval stage, which, as you suggested, will come back to council, but it's still up to staff to make the decision on whether all of the 44 conditions have been met. So one other question, Mr. Jardin, with the province of Ontario's recent changes to our official plan and the quest to build more homes here in the province of Ontario, even if this committee said no tonight, the applicant still can go to the province of Ontario and have this decision gone through. Is that correct? Even if this committee said no?
Through Mr. Chair, so if any applicant can appeal the decision, if a decision goes the way that an applicant doesn't want, the applicant could appeal an application like this to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and then the tribunal would make the decision on that and take that decision out of council's hands.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the developer is now basically gone to the province, and the province is slapping Quinte West planning committee on the wrist for saying no, and they're just going to say, and they possibly could say yes anyways, even though, like, your staff is recommending for approval, correct? That's the recommendation.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because it meets all of the conditions laid out by the province of Ontario and the City of Quinte West's official plan. This application at this point in time for, what's the word I'm looking for, a draft approval, it meets all those conditions at this time.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, I think I would never like to speculate on how a tribunal would rule on anything.
Correct.
You
I
know,
understand that.
But and I think I'll go back to just comment on one of the initial things that Madison said in her presentation, which is important, and I think it goes to the root of why there's a lot of concern within the residents. So. As was mentioned, and most of the residents probably know, this property is within a settlement area designation. A hamlet is the terminology that's used in the Quinte West official plan. That's important because the provincial policy and the city's official plan policy, which falls in line with that, sees these areas as the focus for residential development, so clustering them in a village or a hamlet type setting. And that designation's been in place since amalgamation. That's not a new designation, and I think it's also important to note that this property already is zoned rural residential. There's an exception to deal with some of the technicalities this evening, but it is already zoned, designated, and therefore planned for residential development. And the reason that's important in the context of Councillor Quincy's question is that I suspect if it did go to the tribunal would be looking at it and say, this meets all of the general policy parameters, so therefore have they done their due diligence on the technical side? And that's what we're going to get into, and that's where a lot of the questions have come from. And if the answer to that is yes, and they meet all the ministry and engineering standards, I suspect the outcome would be a positive outcome for the developer. And I know that's hard when people have lived in the area, stayed the same for a long time. They see the land for what it is, not what it might be, and it's a big change. So we all understand that, but definitely this is not a development that is stretching the boundaries of planning principles. This is a residentially targeted site for future development, and to your point, to accommodate the housing that is partly needed. Now, definitely, I'll jump in there and say I don't think this site's going to provide some of the more needed housing, shall we say, that tends to show up in more urban areas. But definitely, we're getting pushed continually by the province and market to provide more and more housing, for sure.
And this developer is got an idea, sees there's a parcel of land, and meets all of the conditions laid out by the city's official plan, which was viewed and massaged by the province of Ontario, as well as the province of Ontario's new rules and regulations regarding developing properties, including many changes to the Conservation Authority as well, which is also, they're allowed to comment, but they can't really stop anything if the developer is going to meet these conditions. And I just wanted to point out in regards to the hydrological assessment, it is point number 26 on the list of the 44 conditions. And in there, the developer is going to have to meet 4 of the points in the hydrological assessment in order to get approval from the planning staff to proceed one step farther. Anyhow, because of all of the the pieces that are floating around out there, I will be supporting the staff recommendation to proceed with the draft plan, so I'd like to make the motion to go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I would entertain a seconder to put it on the floor, or any other questions? No, the question. Okay, Ms. Simmons.
Hi. I just have a simple question and a more complicated question, I guess. Can you point out where are the trees that are going to be removed?
Through Mr. Chair, I believe the areas where trees will be removed, I think, is where the access road is, and then roughly around where the stormwater block in the area just directly to the south. I think that's where the predominant trees are on the site. Yeah.
No, it's going to be clear cut.
Yeah, there's vegetation throughout the site, but
No, it's forest. It's gonna be clear cut. I know where I live.
Okay, so I have a question for the developer. Because of the concerns and the stormwater and the drainage, they be open to just developing the other side and omitting 3, 4, 5, and 6? Now, that is an option where it looks like it would have less impact on the residents and the environment, even though the conservation has okayed it. But it seems like it would cause a lot less disruption looking at just the site of plan that I've seen. Anyway, that was all I have to say. Thank you.
Would you like to address that, sir, or your planning staff? I don't know who would. Okay, Brian?
Yeah, no, I think that would be a question for the developer to respond to. I think the staff response, and I can assure the audience they won't like me saying this, but one of the things we always look at is a development making the best use of the site? So that would put a question mark on that, but it would really be the developer's call as to whether they come in with a revised proposal, if that's something they wanted to do.
Ms. Simmons?
Oh, I just was thinking that you'd have less issues with the drainage concerns and you'd keep the reservoir. And so it may be simpler and more cost effective to the developer just to omit that territory.
And I'm sure probably there was engineering and elevations taken too for drainage. I'm not an engineer or anything, but I do know how
I think that's another
they draw
thing.
The plans up. They have to do an elevation and a drainage study. So.
I think that's another thing to point out as well, is that and it maybe goes to some of the initial comments that were made around flooding or drainage issues on the site. With a development like this, obviously the site gets re-engineered and gets new elevations in relation to a proper designed drainage system that will take all the water from surface drainage to the roadside ditches and then out via the storm ponds. So it will be an engineered site. So if there are you very often hear us saying this, is that very often, whether it's an urban site or a rural site, existing drainage issues can often be resolved through development because it's an engineered site.
Okay, committee, any other questions? Mr. Brown.
A question for the developer. There's a lot of development going on right now. My parents are in Almonte. There's major development going on, like homes in the hundreds. I've got about 26 units going up just close to where I live in Frankfurt. Given the restrictions of the road, it sounds like, according to the engineering department, yes, the road is adequately wide enough, but it sounds like one of them is just there with not much room to breathe. So my comment would be, and I'm not going to paint them all with the same brush, but let's face it, Friday afternoon at the end of the workday, those construction workers, they don't exactly waste any time going home. And I'm just going by what I see, whether it's in Almonte, which is part of Mississippi Mills, or if it's Frankfurt, which is part of Quinte West. So I'm just hoping that you guys have some sort of I'm going to support the draft plan, but I want some sort of assurance from you guys. Hopefully that when it comes to all the heavy equipment that's coming in and out of there, I'm guessing there's 12 or 13 homes. If you're looking at least months, are we going to look at a way for them to get in and out of the site with as little impact on the surrounding neighbors as possible?
Sure.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I noted your concern, and we are very much serious about any traffic and transportation concern for the road. And I can assure that even during the construction time of these 13 lots, we'll take care of the construction equipment and the heavy vehicles turning around on this thing, as well as the surrounding neighbor people, those who are concerned regarding the school bus and the pedestrian movement. So definitely we are going to take care of all this concern during even the construction management plan also in future. So I can assure that thing.
Okay. You done, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the developer. If you delayed development of lots 1 and 12, you could actually go in and out through Teal Road. Could you consider that too?
Through the chair. Yeah, our traffic and transportation planner, they have considered all the options available, and from his survey and analysis, this was the best option he has considered to take the access from the Jarvis Road, because the 20-meter right-of-way is available right from that strip. So I don't have much to say regarding this, because basically it's the traffic and transport experts' recommendations that what we have accepted. And that was the best option.
Option for the developer to get 2 more houses in there, which are going to be affordable housing, sir? Do we know roughly what these houses are going to cost?
Through the chair, this development is according to the official plan designation for rural residential and the zoning as per the development control regulations, and we are abided by those regulations.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Councilor? Any other committee members have any questions or comments? Well, we have a mover here to move the recommendation, both recommendations, the draft plan of subdivision and the rezoning. Do I have a seconder to get it on the floor for a vote? Mr. Edison? Any further question?
No, I believe the process, I believe the process is in place. There are a lot of conditions that have to be met, have to be looked at. Pay attention to what the planning department is doing, what the engineering staff is doing, and it is a draft. So there's so many opportunities here to look at this. So, but just keep an eye on it, keep watching it, and make sure it meets the standards for what we're doing, which I have nothing but the best confidence in our planning department for what they're going to do. They don't let anything slip. They look at everything. So just pay attention to the process.
Okay, any other further questions or comments? Mr. Brown?
I'd like to thank those in attendance who didn't speak out of turn.
Michael, I know you're on virtually. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councilor Quinte.
I just wanted to follow up on committee member Edison's comments that you can reach out to the planning department at any time for an update to what's happening. And if they don't respond in a timely fashion, then feel free to give me a call and I'll find out what's going on.
Okay, any further questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, there is a motion on the floor to approve the draft plan of subdivision and the rezoning. All in favor of the motion on the floor as presented? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Your comments regarding the application and staff reports have been recorded and will be forwarded to the members of council. Together with the minutes of this meeting, council will make a decision to approve or refuse the stated application at the regularly scheduled council meeting of Wednesday, May the 21st, which you are entitled to come and address all of council if you so wish. And then it will proceed from there. And as has been stated by staff, the stages that it has to follow and the conditions that some of the staff members here or committee members have stated that the developer will have to follow. Okay, we now move to item 8, public input. Anybody have any further questions or comments about this matter or any others? And seeing none. Oh, okay, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca McHale at 196 Jervis. Just wondering what the traffic study that was completed. As you say, there's 13 homes going in, and they're saying there's going to be 9 traffic in the morning, 12 traffic in the evening. To the best of my knowledge, most families today are a 2-parent household with 2 vehicles living in a rural area, as my husband and I both drive, as does Mr. McQueen. He drives, his wife also drives. So the fact that they're saying they're 9 leaving in the morning, we're looking at more like 26 vehicles with Nadine's children, my child, our neighbor across the street's children, all on that road first thing in the morning. We all know we're not the best drivers first thing in the morning. Today, myself, I was driving back from the corner store, going 40, And I nearly had to hit a culvert that was filled with almost 6 feet of water because someone was driving too fast and there was a pedestrian. So I'd really like the study on the, at least minimum of the traffic to be done a little bit better, because what they're seeing is not what all of us living in Wooler are experiencing.
Well, I'm quite sure staff has said that this is, your comments and everything will be reviewed, and there may be further, questions or maybe improved studies.
Because in the wintertime especially,
Yeah.
there's, good luck.
Yep.
Like with the snow plow, saying yes is wide enough in the summer months, that's great. In the winter months especially, once there's 2-3 feet of snow plowed up on both sides,
Yeah.
the
It
roads
does
keep
narrow
getting
it.
narrower
Yeah.
and narrower, and there's many times where I've had to pull into someone's driveway to let someone oncoming go past me because there is literally no room. And further down from us, it goes little culvert, deep culvert. So if someone that's not familiar with the area doesn't see that culvert and pulls over to make room for someone else, there they are, their car's upside down in someone's front yard. So that's one of my main concerns.
And I was going to go to Robert here, because I know down the road, we look at traffic, I guess, heft of travel and whatever, and sometimes we have to upgrade our roads, and that may have to happen down, brought up to more of an urban standard, I'll put it that way. I won't say you'll get sidewalks and everything, but I know you'll look at maybe buried drainage and stuff to give the road more width or whatever. I maybe you want to comment on that, and for any future design.
Sure. Thanks, Chair. So it's true, in the future, the city will have to reevaluate this road as well as others across, and it's a function of development. With respect to the traffic, I do understand. Let me explain kind of how the traffic is done. So that study takes into consideration peak hours. So you're right, there would be more than like 9 cars and 12. But what it says is, on the peak hour, when most people are leaving, they would expect 9 trips, and the other ones would precede that or follow that. So, like you have, say, a shift worker leaving at 4 in the morning, that would be off peak hour, but on peak hour, so he would already be gone, or she. But then when it's time to take the kids to school, then you've got, say, around 7 a.m., that's when most of the trips would occur in that hour. So that's how the traffic study looks at that. And then to follow up with the comment about drainage, we do recognize that the ditches on Jarvis are used to convey most of the stormwater towards Wooler. And this site in particular would be making use of the overland flow so that any stormwater above and beyond what would be factored in for the 100-year flow would be conveyed down the road ditches and not through the natural drainage courses.
I'm not concerned necessarily about the drainage, it's the traffic with the huge drainage ditch right there. With the extra people that aren't familiar with the area, like those of us who have lived there for multiple years, there's gonna be more traffic incidents because just there's more volume of people there. That's my concern. Yeah, and new people that are moving in that aren't familiar with the area. Yeah, or they, like, you build 13 houses, you're gonna get 40 people in a house. Like, they're coming to visit, you're never alone in that neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else for public input? Yes, ma'am, please.
Rena Dunkley, 66 TL. So is it our understanding from what you were saying that if this does get developed and it does affect our water, the builder is under no obligation to correct that?
There's really no mechanism to ensure that. No, it's a qualification has to be made at the design point. Yep.
So it doesn't matter if it affects our water?
The issue would be as to whether you would. I suspect you would not be able to determine what it was that was impacting your well directly. Right.
After living there for umpteen years, and then a new development goes in, you're telling me that we couldn't state for sure? Really?
I think if you were to try and hire an engineer to make that statement, you wouldn't be able to make that connection to the development sometime at a later point in time. You wouldn't.
That's unacceptable.
Okay, thank you.
just want to go on the, does this all go on the record, or?
Yeah, it'll be in the minutes and it'll be
Excellent.
recorded, yes.
I can't believe that, I'd like to set up 13 houses next to your house with about, probably 50 people using toilets and whatever, and it not affect your well, and you're willing to just take a gamble because you're saying there's no way you can really say accurately what effect it's going to have on us on the street, and just go ahead and approve this. And I can't believe that you're, like, the way you're sounding too. Don, is it Don?
That's it.
You know, I can't believe that you're just letting this go through. And
It's not that I'm letting anything happen. If you've done some research as to the position of the province of Ontario and their desire to build houses, they have painted us into a corner. That's
So-
exactly
you're
what's
supposed
happening
to-
here.
You're supposed to be standing up for the people of Quinte West and the people in this area,
In the
on this
end,
road.
in the
and
end,
you're
that's
just like-
exactly what I'm doing. Because
Well,
if we
so-
had, if we had to defend ourselves, that means we have to spend money to defend ourselves, and I just see it as a losing cause.
I'd rather you spend my tax dollars, okay, defending us, than just letting, you've created this whole situation where, you know, if we say no, it's going to happen anyway.
So I just want to back up with Mr. Jardin's comments. Like, nobody's can give any guarantee on anything happening. Like, how many years have you lived in your property?
10 years.
10 years. And in the last 10 years, have there been some issues where your well has gone a little dry?
Oh, yeah.
And that development's not even there.
Well, it happened one time.
Yeah, I know somebody who lives they don't live in Wooler and they don't live in the Hamlet portion, and they had their well go dry as well in the past, and they've also had too much water. You know, not too many years later, they've had water in their basement. So I think what Mr. Jardin's trying to say is that there's no guarantees of anything. You could step out your front door and expect to be back for dinner, and you might not make it, and not because of this development.
It just blows me away that you're just willing to,
We're just
without
getting,
any kind of scientific or whatever information.
and this developer may also decide, 2.5 years from now that this isn't working for them, and they may not even continue with the project. That's also a possibility.
Director Jardin?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, I think the point of clarification is there is a Hydro-G study that has been conducted. And to the earlier gentleman's point, we will review the date of that and any implications there. But you said without any data, without any research, that is done. So if you look at it from the other perspective, from the municipality's perspective, the standards set for undertaking a whole variety of studies. Mr. Jackson spoke about the protocols that are in place for reviewing a traffic study. Now, you all live in a neighbourhood and you experience different things, and it's very common that people say, this is not what I experienced. The lady that spoke earlier saw that. So from the perspective of the municipality, like I said before, this is a property within a designated residential area planned for residential development. And yes, there's some conditions that have to be met. The way of meeting those conditions are the undertaking by professionals in the field of studies that meet those conditions to ministry standards and by full engineering standards. That's the guidelines that we have to use to say whether or not we can support a development or not. Go back to Councillor Quince's point. If we decided that as a municipality, and obviously as staff we have a different role than members of committee and council, our task is to review the technicalities of a project and respond on that. If I was to sit here and say, I hear everything the engineers say, these people are respected in their field, they've got all the documentation, they're following all the guidelines, but I'm still not okay with it, then I wouldn't be doing my job. So I have to recommend based on the technical studies. So there has been data done. It is a study, and that's how we have to give our recommendation. Because if I didn't, there would be no justification for me, from a technical standpoint, of recommending against this development. And like said, the developer would quite easily be able to challenge that position.
Which study tells me that 13 new wells they're not going to affect my well?
the hydrogeological study, which is available at City Hall. You can come in and view it at your convenience.
All right.
And by the same token, for us as on the planning committee and as councillors, we also have to do our job by doing the best thing possible for the city of Quinte West. We gave an oath that that's what we were going to do, and I view, not that I'm a big supporter of the province of Ontario, but housing is a problem. I have family members who live in the community and they don't own their own house and they would like to own a house. And the only way that, in my view, to get people to own a house is to have houses for them to purchase at some point in time in their lives. And we don't have enough of them. We don't have enough apartment buildings. We just had a disastrous fire just a couple of months ago, a property that was almost within a few months of completion where people were going to be able to move in, and now they could be like 2 years before they could get into that property because that has to pretty much start all over again. So we don't have enough apartments, we don't have enough houses, and we don't have enough jobs. There's all kinds of problems, and this applicant is meeting all of the criteria that is outlined by the province of Ontario, and it's being recommended by our staff. And as a member of council, I firmly believe that we're just going to go along with the plan. And if the developer decides to do something else down the road, well, that's the developer's decision to make those. Either they go ahead or they don't go ahead. They've stepped into it. I'm going to guess that they want to go ahead, but that doesn't mean they're going to. We have many subdivisions that are in this stage where they get approved, but they haven't built anything yet. I don't even know how many that is. What, like a dozen maybe, where we have approved subdivisions and they've absolutely built nothing yet. So, and those have been in the works for years, at least 3 or 4 years that I know of, where there are approved subdivisions and not one house built. Thanks.
Thank you. One last public input, and we're going to have to move on.
Don, you keep mentioning about the Ontario there with housing and stuff like that. I believe it's is to do with affordable housing within Ontario. Well, that's what we see on the news, to do with affordable housing with building. And I've asked this question, I'll ask this question to the developer or to yourself. What do you consider affordable housing? Because I know the lots out at our houses and the houses that are being sold around us may be affordable to the Toronto people, but for our local people here, being Quinte West, $800K, $700K, up to $1 million is not affordable.
Well, I purchased my home in 1987, and I relied on my banker and my income to become to make it an affordable house. No, it's not. It's not 1987. But to me, affordable housing is I have a job, I have an income, I qualify at my financial institution. They said they're lending me the money. To me, that's affordable housing. To other people, it may mean something completely different. No, I'm not the decider on what is affordable housing.
What is affordable housing? So
it's not my call.
There is no actual figure what affordable housing was.
That is correct.
Brian, you want to address that?
Mr. Chair, so for anybody who's been watching, listening to news, etc., obviously affordable housing's been a big thing, and part of the challenge over the last couple of years, since the province has been bringing in a lot of different legislation changes, part of the challenge has been defining, in this what municipalities have been searching for as well, defining affordable. What affordable housing is. First point I would say is to the greater picture. The legislation changes both at provincial and local level. Well, particularly over the last 2 years, I've seen more changes in legislation in the last 2 years than I've seen in the previous 20 years related to housing. It's definitely affordable housing is one of the major targets, but all housing is a target as well. The push from the province is more housing. Overall, definitely affordable housing is the key part of that. I'm going to say around the middle of last year, the province actually went to the stage of doing an analysis and determining what they meant. This is what the provincial government meant by affordable housing, right? Down to the specific municipality. The challenge had always been before that all of the census data, all of the market data was regional, so you could never hone in on Quinte West or City of Belleville or whatever. But they've done that now. So there's two ways to read affordable housing. First is a personal calculation that every individual homeowner has to do. And that basically, the standard of that is if you're spending any more than 1/3 of your household income on your accommodation, then it's no longer affordable. So anything under a third. So that's a very personal calculation. That really doesn't help us because everybody's in a different situation, obviously. However, the province did come out with very specific numbers. I'm not a good numbers guy, so I don't remember all of the numbers, but they did provide specific numbers for home ownership and for rental of different sizes of rental apartments for Quinte West specifically. Don't completely quote me on this, but I think the number they came up with for home purchase was around $340,000, $350,000. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not defending that. But to answer your question, yes, they have defined it as a very specific number. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And as I stated earlier, these minutes of this committee's decision goes to council, and if you so wish to come out on May the 21st, you can have another kick at the can in regards to our decision tonight. So I throw that out there. Okay, committee, we'll dispense with public input. We're past that. We're presentations, we have none. Delegations, we have none. Well, we had delegations, representations, I guess, from the public. Decision items, we have none. And we move down to printed information. We have monthly planning reports, A, B, and C, and the year-to-date building department. I would entertain a motion to receive and entertain any questions. Mr. Edison? Ms. Simmons moves. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And non-printed information, we have none. I'll go around the table for requests of information. Any concerns? Councillor Card? Councillor Quinte.
Yeah, I know you probably don't like this decision, but my point of view is we are painted into a corner to build houses for people, and the city of Quinte West needs houses. And I've been sitting on the planning committee since 2014, and I would have to agree with Mr. Jardine where the province of Ontario has made multiple changes, not just with the Planning Act, but also with the conservation authorities and many other institutions with the effort to build houses. And that's what they want us to do. And it's even in the federal rhetoric for the campaigning that the leaders for the political parties for the federal government are talking about housing, housing, housing. So these houses have to be put somewhere. And this particular spot in Wooler has been designated for growth because it's in a hamlet area. And there are many of these hamlets areas throughout the city of Quinte West. There's some development going on in Wallbridge, which is also a hamlet area where some homes are getting built. I don't think there's 13 of them, but I believe there's 6 or 7 of them being built there. And there could be more. There are other hamlet areas throughout the city of Quinte West. And so this is just one instance. And although the province of Ontario would prefer the homes to be built where there's water and wastewater services along with transportation such as busing, that's really where the province is going, but they're not saying no to this either because they know people need houses. That's my comments. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Simmons, do you have anything to bring forward tonight? No? Mr. Brown? Final comment?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I believe these meetings are vitally important, especially in times like this. This is a democratic process. It's supposed to be a diplomatic process too. The public members of this committee don't draw a salary like councillors do. We are volunteers. I can handle hecklers. I've been on stage many a times. I got a thick skin and I can handle hecklers, no big deal. I do have difficulty hearing though. And this is not the first meeting that's really gone off the rails. So when I'm straining to hear someone who's speaking into a microphone over someone who is not, that doesn't make sense. So personally, I would like more order restored to these meetings before we have this happen again. Thank you.
Okay, well, you have to fire the chairman, I guess, so that's fine. Councillor Neal? Anyway, thank you very much for your attendance this evening, and I thank staff, and I also thank the committee for their work. And all I can say is, I was born and raised in Murray Township. I don't live in Wooler. I live in South Murray, but I've been involved with Murray politics since 1978 in the planning thing, and it's changed a lot over the years, and also been a Murray politician before I got to this job. So I'm well aware of your territory and your area and everything. And I do sit in the Committee of Adjustment also, as Ms. West and I, in the planning that we deal with severances. So I see it at all ends, and I gotta compliment our staff because they do sign all our applications so people can see and go out and take a look at them. And I can tell you, I'm sure this committee is the same as our Committee of Adjustment. We go out, while we are giving great information and mapping and everything, we go and look at the sites. We don't always involve contacting the people, but I can tell you all my committee members that I sit with, we do look on the sites, and I think Ms. West will confirm that along with Mr. Jardine. In our committee here, I know when they're given the agendas, while we have great information, looking at it in the real world is sometimes different than what you interpret on here too. So it's not that we're ignorant to any of your concerns. We understand them, and I know we sometimes exasperate people with what we have to decide, but we try, as Councillor Quinte says, make the right decision that we can feel that can go forward in a fair and equitable manner. So having said that, I would wish everybody a happy Easter and hopefully we can move on. And as I tell you folks earlier, you can come to council and express your concerns on the 21st of May also to approve these minutes. Without further ado, I would ask for a motion of adjourn. Councillor Card and Councillor, or I guess I won't elevate you, Mr. Edison, yet. You can come up next year for that job. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.